time of your life, live, so that in that good time there should be no ugliness or death.
If the seminal sci-fi film Blade Runner and dystopian literary classic 1984 had a video game baby, it would be Observer System Redux. Set in a decrepit apartment building in futuristic Poland, Observer incorporates many familiar science fiction and cyberpunk themes in a way that feels both deferential and distinct from its clear inspirations. Part detective story, part psychological horror, Observer is the kind of game you'll want to play with the lights off and headphones on. It does a great job of building tension by just using its environments and ambient sounds, though a few out of place and thankfully infrequent stealth sections cause more aggravation than fear.
Ignore the obvious, for it is unworthy of the clear eye and kindly heart. Clear eye.
Originally released in 2017, Observer System Redux is an enhanced version of the base game with improved graphics and additional story content. The year is 2084, and Poland has been ravaged by the nanophage, a digital plague resulting in widespread drug use, body modification, and the watchful rule of governing megacorporation Chiron. You're put in the hardened gumshoes of Observer Dan Lazarski, an elite police detective who can hack into minds. As Dan, you'll investigate murder scenes, analyze clues, and try to make your way out of a locked-down tenement building full of shady characters. Observer System Redux doesn't shy away from its sci-fi, cyberpunk, and horror influences. Lazarski is voiced by the now late Rutger Hauer, best known for his role in Blade Runner. There are also references to the novel 1984 and plenty of other Easter eggs to be found throughout the building. Despite the familiar themes, Observer never feels derivative. It's more of a love letter to the works that came before than an imitation. Being a cybernetically enhanced observer, Dan Lazarski has a few extra tools at his disposal. He can use EM vision to analyze electronic equipment, biovision to identify biological materials like blood, and night vision to make dark spaces like the building's creepy basement easier to navigate. Oh, and he can hack into dead people's minds and explore their memories. These trippy Dream Eater sequences keep the derelict apartment setting from ever feeling too claustrophobic. There's a lot left up to interpretation too. Observer System Redux never holds your hand or answers every question, and your choices will have an effect on how you see the world around you and even how it all ends. Unlike many games in the survival horror genre, Observer System Redux doesn't need violent combat or run and hide mechanics to successfully create a creepy atmosphere. Almost all of the campaign focuses on exploration and contextual interaction with the world around you, much like Gone Home or What Remains of Edith Finch. It doesn't rely on cheap jump scares, instead creating an ever-growing tension through the environments, ambient music, and sound effects. The mood building works incredibly well, which is why it's such a shame that developer Bloober team felt the need to include a few frustrating and unnecessary stealth sequences. Thankfully, these segments are few and far between, but they also completely kill the vibe. They are the only part of Observer with a fail state, and it's hard to avoid a creature that's stalking you when you don't have very precise ways to tell where it is. During these sequences, fear is eventually replaced by a desire to throw your controller at the TV. These stealth parts stand out because the rest of Observer System Redux generally plays like a dream. Every choice you make, every clue you find, and every room you explore gently push the story forward. But it's up to you to think yourself out of each situation. It's full of delightful and disturbing details, and I found myself scouring every inch of the building to uncover its tenants' tiny secrets. The only technical issue I had was occasionally getting the cursor to focus on an object I wanted to inspect more closely. Sometimes putting the reticle directly over the object didn't work, and I had to move the camera around to find the right angle.
Scratch marks on the floor.
Observer is the kind of game that stays in your head long after you finish the 10-hour campaign. Did you make the right choices? Did you miss anything? Multiple endings, side quests, and player choices give it some degree of replayability, even if the thought of doing the small handful of stealth sections again is less appealing. Observer System Redux uses familiar sci-fi themes to create a compelling murder mystery in a disease-plagued dystopian future. Though it takes place entirely in a derelict apartment building, the setting never feels restrictive, thanks in part to the mind-hacking sequences that let you explore the victim's memories. It's genuinely creepy, with the constantly building tension only interrupted by out-of-place stealth sequences that feel like they came from another game. Even so, Observer System Redux is a stellar display of survival horror storytelling. For more IGN reviews, check out our verdicts on Samurai Warriors 5 and Last Stop, and for everything else, stick with IGN.
Now dig in. It's not getting any better.